welcome to the Orchard Church. If you are in the lobby, we just want to go ahead and invite you into the worship center. If you are in here, let's go ahead and stand up and start worshiping and singing to Jesus.
Lost another Amen. Y'all can be seated. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Orchard Church. My name is Adam Ralston, and I get to serve as the worship leader here. And we are so glad that you are here with us in person and online. And we are especially glad if you're a guest with us today. We would like for any and all of you, especially our guests, to fill out on the back of your seats. You see a little communication card. And that communication card just allows us to get in touch with you, to know a little bit about you, and you can place those in the offering baskets as they go by. And if you're a guest with us today, hopefully you were greeted at the door as you came in. But we also have a special gift for you at our welcome table. So if you haven't had a chance to stop by, I encourage you to stop by there and check with them and see that. Here at the Orchard Church, our mission is to grow new and fully devoted followers of Jesus. And that is by helping people encounter Jesus for life-giving transformation. So that is our goal here, and that's what we aim to do. And we hope that you have an encounter with Jesus this morning. Some things before we get into what's upcoming. Yesterday, the men's ministry had our man-cathlon. I would like to hear an unga bunga from all the gentlemen out there. So give your best grunt. So I have to announce our grand champion of the man-cathlon, using both his wit and his skills with a fishing rod and everything else. Drum roll, please. The champion is Brian Stout. Grand champion, man-cathlon, the manliest man we know. Dancing was not part of the competition, so that is why he won. Yeah. But he earned this giant trophy right here. So congratulations. So congratulations to Brian. And hey, if you're a guy here, we hope that you could join us with our men's ministry. In the fall, we'll start meeting up again on Wednesday nights. And we hope that you guys get a chance to come and be fed. And as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. So we hope that you can join us and be a part of that. Upcoming, we've got some student events. We've got Catch-Up Club today. That's going to be at the Taco Bell, Wendy's, Zaxby's little trifecta over there. Grab whatever you want, and then I guess y'all figure out where you're going to sit down and eat it at, which one of those restaurants. But that's going to be a lot of fun. And money is due by Wednesday if you plan on going to Helen to go tubing. So if you want to go sitting on the river and relaxing all the way down until you slip and fall and bust your rear end, put your money in. We hope that you guys get to go and join and have fun with that. Also upcoming, we have on Wednesday nights, we have our current Grow Group series. This is Family Wednesday Night series, and we are watching The Chosen Season 2. All right, so we're going through that and having discussion about what we watch in those episodes. There's also childcare provided, and dinner this time is appetizers and desserts. So yeah, bring your best app and or dessert Wednesday to Grow Group. And then last announcement that we have coming up, we have Meet Alex, our new pastor, Alex Smith. He's going to be having, he's not going to be having parties. Members of the church will be hosting parties at their house, and you can choose to go to one of those parties. Ralstons are hosting one. Come on over. We'd love to have you. And meet our new pastor. Just have some time of food and fellowship and getting to know one another. So we encourage you to sign up for one of those days. There's lots of them. So feel free to sign up and join us. So at this time, I want you to check in on social media. I want you to turn and find somebody you haven't seen yet and give them a hug this morning and say hello to your Insta family.
Good morning. Good morning, friends. I am Audra, and my family and I have been attending the Orchard since 2008. That seems like forever ago. And I have been lucky enough to be on staff for the last 7 years. The morning after being asked to do the giving talk, I opened my devotional to a testimony on money and worship. How fitting. I'd like to share that with you. But before I do, I want to draw your attention to the seat backs in front of you, to these lovely 2 items right here. One is a connection card, and the other is a giving envelope. I'd like each person from each family to hold these 2 items in their hands. So go ahead, grab one. Just one, unless you just want to have one each, it's fine. Several years ago, this is the devotional. Several years ago, my family went through a difficult financial season where we were barely making ends meet. My husband was struggling to overcome the lie that he had failed us. I knew Satan wanted us afraid and focused on what we didn't have, but we refused to give in. Instead, we chose gratitude because we remembered you cannot worry and worship at the same time. So whenever we were home, we were blasting worship music to help us replace our negative thoughts with God's promises. We also started putting a prayer request of gratitude in the baskets each Sunday. Each Sunday here at the Orchard, we say giving is an act of worship. While I can't tell you what to give, as that is between you and God, but if you're like me in this high time of inflation, I can still be grateful. So I'm asking each of you to take a moment and write what you are grateful for and place that in the baskets as they are passed. If you're watching online, I'll be joining the chat soon, and I'd love to see what you write, so please put yours in the comments. Please take this time to worship God with your gratitude and giving. Thank you.
Darkness, my God, that is who you are. stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. We make a miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are. We make a miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 We're here, Waymaker. We worship you. We worship you.
Well, good morning.
Good morning, Adam. Welcome back.
Yes, I love it. It's so exciting to be invited back here to the Orchard. This place, this is an Insta family. I served here a few years back as the youth pastor, and I've just been so excited to follow you guys on social media, to be able to talk to a lot of you guys about what God has been doing here at the Orchard. And it's just evident. I mean, in my time here, I was tremendously blessed, and I know you've blessed countless others. My time here was spent working alongside some amazing teenagers and some passionate volunteers who were just so into the next generation and sharing the love of Jesus with them. And it's just so awesome to see what God is already doing and continuing to do here in this church. Many of the highlights in my ministry career happened in this place. So I'm so thankful for all of you and what you mean to me and my family. And hopefully what I have to say here this morning will reflect my love and adoration for you all. But to be honest with you, when I was preparing for this message, when Wendy reached out, when she went on her little sabbatical before she's moving over to her new church, the process for me started off a little bit rocky. I take a great deal of time to get focused and be intentional about what I do when I plan a message, because it doesn't happen very often. So I wanted to get in the right frame of mind, free myself from distractions in order to really get my focus on what I wanted to say here this morning. And it honestly takes a lot to get me back on track when I do get distracted. For example, as I started to sketch out my message and what I wanted to say to each of you this morning, I wasn't even just a few words to typing out my message when one of those updates popped up on my computer screen. Like, I mean, you guys ever had that happen where you're like right in the middle, you're about to grind on something, and all of a sudden an update on your phone or your computer pops up? Well, you know, I do what everyone typically does. You see that update, you hit update, you move on, you get back to business. And fortunately, I was able to get back to what I was doing. But after a while, I started thinking about, what did I just agree to? I mean, you ever done that? I mean, they have that huge text box, and you're like, yeah, I agree, move on, get back to what I'm doing. But no one reads those things. No one's got the time to sit down, like, I'm going to meticulously walk through every anecdote of what this has to say so I know exactly what I'm committing myself to. No, we don't do that. We move on, we select agree, and move along. And the reason is that, like I said, it's crazy long. For instance, Instagram, their terms and their conditions is like 5,000 words long. I mean, why would you agree to that? Nobody's got time for that. But here's the thing that a lot of us don't realize. All those terms and conditions that you loosely agree to, they're not set in stone. Meaning those terms are subject to change. What you agree to in this moment can change a few days later. In other words, basically what you're agreeing to is here are the rules, here's how we do things. You got all that, right? Okay, well, by the way, that can all change tomorrow. And those terms and conditions on our apps and devices, they're subject to change. But so is life in a lot of ways too, which is obvious when you think about it. We all have terms and conditions, or what we would call expectations for what life should look like. And then one day, life completely rearranges it for all of us, right? It breaks the rules that we established for our lives and how it's going to look, and then the unexpected happens. Now, change, it can be a good or bad thing, right? For example, maybe you get a new job. Awesome, you get a new job, but you're not the one in charge. I mean, obviously, you didn't apply for the manager position or anything like that, but you got a new job, you're excited about that. But shortly after you start this role, somebody else who was also hired along on the same level as you at the same time gets promoted to project manager, and then they get that company car and that office by the window, and you're just super jealous. And wait a second, my life changed. Well, it's not as great as theirs. Or maybe you recently put your house on the market because you wanted to move closer to your extended family, to be next to grandma, grandpa, or aunts and uncles or cousins. And you're excited because you get to spend more quality time with those people because you don't see them that often other than holidays and Christmas time. But on the flip side, you're leaving behind a neighborhood full of some close friends, or a school that you've built deep connections in with friends and folks. But either way, life just pulls the change card on you. Or maybe you've had 15 years of a thriving marriage, and it's been really good and great and full of love, but as of late, you've been fighting with your spouse to the point where you're actually considering separation. And you just can't reconcile when things changed and you felt blindsided. Change can be awesome or awful. But either way, I think we all struggle with change for a couple reasons. Number one, it forces us into the unknown. Change doesn't necessarily arrive with a set of guaranteed results or terms or conditions. So until we know exactly how things are going to turn out, it can be really stressful to be in the middle of it. Change can also cause us to lose perspective. Change, it can be emotionally charged because there's so many different people involved in the situation or our livelihood. In fact, a big enough change can actually make us feel like it's the end of the world. Things are crumbling around us and there's no hope. Another reason we struggle with change is because we realize we're not in control. And although we never really had control of our lives, we feel it more deeply when we're in the middle of change. And since all of us are subject to change at some point, we're also subject to realizing that we can't make everything in our life fit into this perfect box. So the question that we need to tackle here this morning isn't how do we avoid change, because change is happening whether we're ready for it or not. The real question is how can we make it through change? Unfortunately, the Bible has some awesome things to say about this very question. And what the Bible says can actually comfort and carry us through those times of trials and whatever life throws our way. But before we get to the meat of the message, let me give you a little bit of backstory of what's going on in these biblical times. Thousands of years ago, God had a chosen people known as the Israelites, and they were his people. And although God is perfect, the Jewish people were anything but perfect. They obviously could not behave perfectly. But despite that, God still wanted them to live differently than everybody else in the world. So he gave them a set of laws to live by while they were settling themselves apart. And they started off with 10. What are those 10 rules called? 10 commandments, yeah. Well, then they decided, let's add on a couple more. Well, actually, that list became up to 613 laws. Yeah, that's a lot. That's heavy. But they had laws for almost anything. Things of what you can eat and don't eat. And all our teenagers in the room are like, oh, no, no. Well, maybe that worked in your favor. Maybe like, no broccoli, but I can have chips whenever I want. But it's ridiculous. Or where not to wear. I mean, some of you guys are living that in your household. But the craziest stuff, they even had rules about how to worship God, of all things. It's crazy because some of those rules basically say that only certain people could enter the part of the temple, which was like the church. So basically, it's like, a group of you showed up here this morning to worship, but only a handful of you could come in here and be in this worship part. The rest of you had to stay in the lobby, and then the other people had to stay in the parking lot. Weird, right? But that's how it was. I mean, people were separated in that way. Only the smaller elite group could actually experience God's presence. They were the special ones. But then, fast forward a few centuries, something revolutionary happened. And I think we're all familiar with this. God entered the world in a real-life person, flesh and blood, like you and I, in the form of Jesus. And with that, Jesus shared some amazing truth, that his love was not just for the Jewish people, not just for the chosen ones under the old covenant, but it was for the entire world. For the broken, for the outcast, for people who didn't look like them. They were all welcomed into this. And then after being put to death and demonstrating how great his love was Jesus came back to life. Like big change in history, like someone was dead, came back to life. That doesn't happen regularly. And when Jesus defeated death, it changed everything. It was the game-changing history moment in all our history. But then Jesus leaves the world. You're like, come on, you came back. Why are you leaving? And once life returned to somewhat normal, the Jewish people who had become followers of Jesus were shaken up. Like, we lived this ministry with this guy performing all these miracles, and all of a sudden, like, we're left alone again, and we're kind of retreating into our old ways. But what do we do with what we know? And especially with the religion that they had once followed and practiced for generations. They went from these 613 rules that were written down, and they had to pray at these times, eat these foods, wear these clothes, worship this way, and it all came down to one relationship. I mean, talk about a monumental shift in your life of reorienting yourself. So it made them question, like, does God have terms and conditions of his own? Like, is he going to change his mind again? Is he going to, like, say we're not chosen, it's those people over there? I mean, they had some major questions. Were the rules subject to change? So to say they had concerns was an understatement. They were freaking out. They didn't know what to do. So a letter was sent to them to offer some comfort and clarity. And it's what we know as the book of Hebrews. If you're looking in the New Testament, it's kind of towards the back. It's a small little section. We actually do not know who wrote it, but it's full of some really rich stuff. But it was written to the Jewish people who followed Jesus. And as in this letter, the author clearly has a deep understanding of God's plan for his people and humankind. But in his final thoughts of the letter, he says this statement. It comes from Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. And it says this: "Don't love money. Be satisfied with what you have. For God has said, I will never fail you. I will never abandon you." And you may be sitting here like, wait. Did he just do like a bait and switch where like now we're doing a tithing message, they're going to do like a second offering? No. That's not what this message is about. But this verse has a lot to do with the context of what's going on with the Jewish people at this time. So I just wanted to take any nervousness away from you. We're Methodists. We're not doing a second offering. Unless you feel so led by the Spirit to go. Never mind, I'm not going to go there. Anyway, but that, like I said, that may be weird to hear now, to hear, don't love money, be satisfied with what you have. But being a Jewish Jesus follower back then, it wasn't easy. Like I said, they had this monumental shift in their personal lives of what it meant to follow God, but also culturally, with the people around them, they were received in a different way. And one of those changes that came with following Jesus meant you were in danger of losing your property and money, okay? So when they said, don't be worried about that, because of the new life they were living, they were at risk of losing their livelihood. They could lose everything, basically. And even when that scary threat of potential change is happening around them, the author of this letter reminds the Jewish people of something they already knew to be true, because it's something that they had heard their entire lives. God would never abandon or fail them. God would never abandon them. He would be with them every step of the way. Basically, what the writer's saying is like, look, things are changing. I get it. Things are hard. Things are different. We don't really fully understand what's going on. I get that. But God's character hasn't changed at all. God is still the same God that you've known since you were a child, that your ancestors knew, that grandma used to speak about. I mean, it's the same God. Things just look a little bit different. So to add a little extra clarity, the writer a few verses later makes a similar statement that I think would help all of us, especially in the situations that we face in life each and every day. It says this in verse 8 from chapter 13. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. What a promise in a short little statement. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. I think we constantly need to be reminded of that. In other words, even though Jesus has changed the game, Jesus himself has not changed. He was the representation of the same God they had been following since the first time they encountered him. Like I said, so sure, maybe the way they've worshiped has changed. You know, everyone's welcome in the temple now. Come on, let's have a big party and worship God together. And instead of following hundreds and hundreds of rules, which I probably think they were like relieved about, they were now free to simply follow one person in the form of Jesus. So what did that mean? So that when it came to worship, there was no more rules about who could enter the temple. When it came to experiencing God, it meant that his Spirit was available for everyone. The Spirit was no longer something that resided in the temple, but it was something that covered the whole world, and it could come into an individual's life and change them from the inside out. How amazing is that? And when it came to sacrifices, in one move, Jesus became the singular, permanent sacrifice for everyone's sins. No more animal sacrifices had to be made. No one had to carry around the guilt and shame in their life or the mistakes anymore. They could freely give that over to God in an intercessory prayer and allow God to forgive them. They had access to the holy God of the cosmos in that way. I mean, monumental shifts. And for us, when we hear that, we're like, that's awesome. That's amazing. I mean, we've maybe experienced that for ourselves. But to the Jewish people at that time, this was unsettling because they had history with God. They had a long history of it used to be this and now it's this. And they experienced ups and downs over the centuries. But they had also experienced God's faithfulness through those tough times in the past. And that same God, the same God of their ancestors that they had trusted in the past, was the same God they could trust now. Their circumstances had changed. But God's character had not changed one bit. Which I think is the promise that applies to you and I today, because life changes, but God doesn't. I just want you to think about how freeing that is. Because while everything around you is subject to change, and it may make you feel out of control, that you're in a tailspin, you can walk with the one who is actually in control. You can trust in him. Jesus is a friend who never changes. He was a good 1,000 years ago, and he's still good today. And this message hits home to me, because when I came here a little over 3 years ago, I was in the midst of change. I had lost my job. My wife and I, we were having problems in our marriage. We had just welcomed a little boy into the world who's sitting right here right now eating a snack. And we walked in here with a lot of brokenness, a lot of uncertainty. And this place was healing in a way that you can't imagine. It affected us personally, and it changed us. And it reminded us of the times that God showed up in our lives time and time again. And I'm so thankful for you guys. Did you know that? Woo, okay, all right. Like I said, your circumstances will change, but God's character never will. Now, if you're still struggling with this analogy, you're still trying to reconcile with it, I want to give you kind of a different way of looking at it. How many of you have ever done ballet before? Now, if I see some male hands, I'm not going to judge. All right. I saw one in the back. Awesome. Okay, but if you've had a child go through ballet, my daughter does ballet. There she is right there. She's a phenomenal dancer. There's this, you may be familiar with this concept. Dancers obviously spin around a lot, right? Or if you've ever done figure skating, you've seen those people twirling, you're sitting there, you're watching, you're getting nauseous watching them because they're spinning so fast. And you're like, oh, how in the world did they not fall over or throw up everywhere? I keep thinking about that SNL sketch with Will Ferrell, with that Christmas one, like, you should look it up later, it's really gross, but we're not gonna show that video. Anyway, but yeah, the spinning and spinning and spinning. I'm like, how in the world do they like stay afoot? I mean, they're like one little toe, all that stuff. I don't know how they do it, but it's a trick. Yes, they have special tricks to help them stay stable and balanced. And what it's called is spotting. Basically, they find a section on the wall, a fixed place while they're facing, and as they're dancing, they keep looking at that spot. That's why you see that head whip like that. I'm like, I do it up here, but I would embarrass myself, probably break a hip, and maybe want to deal with that. But if you're curious of what that looks like, I'm going to show you a quick video of what spotting looks like. Pretty cool. It's pretty amazing. But I mean, that was just a short. Sometimes they go for like 30 seconds or something like that. And it confuses me. But the point is, this focus that they have, it keeps them balanced in the right direction. It keeps their eyes on a single spot. So even though it looks like it's going out of control, they remain stable. And that same idea, that same concept is true for us. Life moves fast. We may feel like we're in that tailspin and things are changing quickly around us, and it can obviously make us feel like we're out of control. And when we're in that place, things often feel worse and worse because what we start to do is to shift our focus to our problems, and they become more magnified and overwhelming. And we tend to forget how God has shown up to us in the past. And as a result, we lose perspective. We drift away. We fall by the wayside. And I say that because it's so important that we stay focused on the one who can stabilize and keep us balanced. But how do we do that? I want y'all to take a moment in the service, small pause, to think back. To think back to a specific time when God came through for you. Is that memory rising to the surface possibly? Or maybe it's a little bit of a struggle. Let me give you some examples maybe that might prime it. Maybe it was like what happened to me when you lost your job. And you didn't necessarily have enough money to pay the bills or your mortgage or to keep the quality of life that you had. So you hunkered down and prayed about it. Or maybe it's when your marriage ended. And you became a single parent. And God helped you survive by bringing people and opportunities in your life to give you something to go after. Or maybe God helped calm your anxiety or helped give you the courage or the encouragement from other people to work through your addiction. Or maybe God just answered a really important prayer. I encourage you at some point, whether it's during this service or after service or when you get home, to think about the past and come up with a few specific memories of how God stayed the same when life didn't. And then I want you to take that moment and I want you to write it down or put it somewhere, have some kind of visual and place it in a place where you see it regularly, whether that's like on your bathroom mirror, on the dash of your car, or maybe in your notes app, and it sends you a reminder. Whatever it is that's going to bring that cue to the forefront to you on a regular basis, that constant reminder of God showing up day and day and day is going to help you through those difficult times. And like I said, it may feel weird at first. You're like, why am I writing this down? I'm not like a journal person. It feels weird putting it over here. But when you need it the most, it will be there. It'll help you see things when things are spiraling out of control. Listen, change is going to happen. And in the life of this church here, change is happening. You're receiving a new pastor after a beloved many years with Wendy Jones. And a lot of great memories are there. And as a moment of privilege, I just want to say something about your incoming pastor. He's one of my best friends. In the short time that I've known him, he has blessed my family and me as an individual in tremendous ways. And you are going to be blessed because of him. So I pray that you do the same thing that the Orchard has always done as being in the Insta family. Receive him well, as you did our family. Love him well. It's not like y'all had to try. Be the church. Remember what God has done for you as an individual, what he has done for this church body and this community. You are here for a reason, and this church, in your workplace, in your family. So never doubt that God has something that he's going to do through you, because he already has. Even when life is unpredictable, we can always trust in the one that is predictable. Life changes. God doesn't. He's the same loving God as he's always been. I'm going to invite the band back up as we get ready to close here this morning. And just thank you to the band. I have to say, y'all have one of the best worship bands that I've ever seen. And it's because their heart and soul is into this. And I love the fact that we see teenagers and young adults up here coming back week after week to serve, and that you get to be part of that. The future for you may seem a little bit bleak and uncertain, and you may have your doubts. But we serve a God that gives second chances time and time again, and you can trust in his unfailing love for you. Let's go to God in prayer. God, I just thank you so much for this family here. These loving people who aren't necessarily related by blood, but are related by love. And God, we're just so thankful just what they mean to each other and how they make you feel when you walk in here for the first time. God, I just ask that you speak into their lives personally, and whatever they're carrying around, whatever heartache or burden or doubt or concern or loss, that God, you just show them your unfailing love, that you show them that you are good, that you are the great provider, the great encourager, and no matter what they face in life, that you are with them every step of the way, that you will not fail them. They can walk beside you, God, that you will carry them in their time of need, and they can get through this because of you and what you've done on the cross, your sacrifice of your Son. So God, help us to be people that love others, a people that are forgiven and redeemed by your love, to show the world your hope for this world. In your name we pray. Amen.
Grander earth quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice. Seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken from my regard. Through it all, is well with me. Far be it from me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. Through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well. It is well. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. is well with me.
Amen. Life changes, but God doesn't. You can rest assured that God will get you through anything. There's nothing too big for him. He's got you. So go from this place knowing your imperfections, knowing that you're not defined by them, that you were fully made in the image of God. And because of that, you have sacred worth and value, and you're worthy to be loved. So go and share that with those that you encounter. Go in peace. We'll see you next week.